definitely want to answer your questions on Ask Me Anything. And so the purpose of this weekly video is to answer any of your writing or publishing questions that you have. So each week I have a topic that I speak on, but you can ask any type of question that you want. On any topic. It does not have to be about the topic that I'm speaking on. So this week I'm talking about the topic of, I'm trying to move so the sun's not directly, there we go. This week I'm talking about the topic of writer's block, because this is something I know a lot of people deal with. I rarely, exceedingly rarely deal with writer's block. And that's just because it's the way my head works. So with writer's block, typically what happens with people is they'll write a couple hundred words and then they'll get stuck and they don't know what to write. Or sometimes people I know, I've heard, like when I talk to people, they're like, I'm just stuck. They sit down and they can't think about anything to write. So I'm going to give you some easy and simple ideas that you can use to help you get past writer's block. So maybe some of these ideas will work for some people and some won't work for another. But what I like to say is just, try it out and see what works for you. 'Cause, different things work for different people. So with writer's block, if you get stuck in the beginning, what I would always recommend, what I recommend is just go online, and you can go on something called Google Trends and look up ideas. You can go on an AI to look up ideas. You can look and see what other people, Google it up and see what other people are writing about and write about your own thing. But maybe you're inspired by somebody else. So if you need that, so quote unquote, inspiration to write, and you're just looking for ideas, Google Trends is great. You can just research online and see what other people are reading about or watching on YouTube. You can also use AI to say, ask it, what people are talking about in the industry or on the topic that you're talking about. So if you're stuck in the very beginning and you want to write something, that's one way you can figure out what to write. Another way, which I have done before, which works out really well for me, is I ask myself, if I could write about anything on a certain topic, what would it be? And then I just literally brain dump. And one of the things that I think stops people from writing and gives them more writing block is that they think, oh, I have to edit as I'm writing. And that's absolutely not true. That will make your writer's block worse. So get comfortable with just brain dumping your information out onto a piece of paper or onto your computer. Now, I always recommend when you brain dump to write it out, physically write it on paper. I like to write it on paper with pencil. Sometimes people like to type it into your computers, and you can type it into your computers. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing is you do have an advantage over writing, physically writing, taking a pencil and putting it on paper, because when you do the physical writing piece, it actually connects to your brain and helps empty out those ideas onto paper. Whereas when you're typing, it doesn't do the same thing because we did not evolve typing on a computer, right? So we have tens of thousands of years of writing on paper. And so that's how our brains are set up to unload information, is when we physically write on paper. And so once you put those ideas on paper and you get those initial ideas out of what I call is the front storage area of your brain, your logical speaking area, then all of the stuff from your subconscious can come forward. And that's why I'm going to make these recommendations for, if you get stuck while you're writing, here are some things you can do to help your head get unstuck. So number one is take a shower. I know that sounds silly and you're like, well, maybe I don't need to take a shower because I'm not dirty. So hear me out. So taking a shower helps because when you're in a shower, you put your head in that relaxed state. And when you're in that relaxed state, that is the state that ideas come to the forefront, because you're not having all of this going on, thinking about things in the front of your head. And when you don't have a bunch of things going on in the front of your head, then you can come up with new ideas, right? And so taking a shower is one of those things that really helps you come up with new ideas. Another way you can come up with new ideas when you're writing is to just get in the car and take a drive. Now, you don't have to drive far. You don't have to drive around a lot. But when you're driving in the car, you'll come up with ideas. You may come up with ideas. If you do, please pull over and write them down, or pull over and just say, hey, and record them on your phone. Or another thing I do is I like to text myself my ideas. Hi, Bridget. Thanks for joining. Put any of your questions in the comments below. So you can say, hey, I'm going to go out, drive in the car, come up with some ideas. And you may not come up with ideas sometimes you will. But anyway, driving the car is one of those things that helps get you out of the front side of your brain so the back side of your brain can give you new ideas. Another thing that's really great that I do all the time is when I wake up in the middle of the night, I almost always have a new idea that comes to my head. So I have on my phone a note and I keep it open at night that says nighttime ideas. So when I get ideas in the middle of the night, if I wake up, I can write them down in my phone and keep them there. Now, I know for like if you have trouble sleeping, it's not always good to put a light in your face in the middle of the night. And I had trouble sleeping, but I found that I tried to have a notepad by by my bedside, and that was really hard for me because I kept pushing the notepad off, or I'd go to grab my pencils and tip over the little pencil jar I have, or I couldn't find my pencil, and so on and so forth. So it just didn't work out for me to keep a pen and pencil by my bed. But however, you can keep something by your bed. That way, if you do wake up in the middle of the night, you can write it down. Now, if you sleep through the night consistently, that's probably not going to work to help with your writer's block. Another idea you can do is go out for a nice leisurely walk, even if it's just walking around your block. You don't have to go to a park. You don't have to even put on like running shoes unless you want to. But just taking a nice walk, especially on a sunny day, really clears your head. Another thing you can do, which I love to do, which would love to get back into, but I haven't been doing because of just physical challenges, is running, right? So like just getting out to run, and you don't have to run 10 miles. You can run a half mile and walk a half mile, whatever it is. But running's another one of those things that helps you clear your mind and get back into the thing. Another thing going along with the shower to clear writer's block is getting in a bathtub, because getting in a bathtub really helps with like unloading a lot of things. It really helps you relax. And I usually come up with good ideas in the bathtub as well. Just more often for me, I come up with new ideas in the middle of the night or when I'm driving. And so those are some ideas of things you can do, in order to get some new ideas in your head. It's summertime right now. So if you have a pool, or even if you have a kiddie pool in your yard, go sit in the kiddie pool for a little bit. So any of those activities that are relaxing, that require little or no mental thought, are really great for clearing out your head, because when you can clear out your head, you can get rid of your writer's block. And if you can get rid of your writer's block, then you can continue moving forward with your writing, whatever that is, right? Writing your blog, writing your book, writing whatever. So that's always what I say to my clients and give advice to my clients is, if you're getting writer's block, do any of those things. And if you have an idea for how you get rid of writer's block that I didn't mention today, I would love for you to comment on it here, or you can comment in the chat for Publishing for Professionals. I would love to hear your comments on how you get rid of writer's block when you get it. Now, I don't get writer's block very often, and the reason is that ideation is one of my big strengths. So I took this test called Clifton Assessments, and what it does is basically measures a lot of the different soft skills that you have. And so very high on my top three or top five of my list is ideation and strategic. So ideation just means it's really easy for me to come up with ideas. And because it's really easy for me to come up with ideas, it's extremely rare that I get writer's block. There's only I think been twice in my life where I've gotten writer's block, because that's just the way my brain works. And it's really helpful for me because I can write up to 10,000 words a day if I just sit down and write. So like recently I was writing a book that I'm working on, and I've only been working on it for 2 months, and I've already got like 12 chapters finished. And that's not I'm not doing this just to brag, but I'm just saying that's how my head works. And I know that I have an advantage because I don't get writer's block. I can keep writing. And typically for me, my creativity can get burned out from two things. One is having large amounts of stress in my life, because when I have a lot of stress, my creativity just goes out the door, right? And that's not really writer's block per se, but I consider that just stress really puts a crimp in many aspects of your life. And the number one thing it does put a crimp in for my life is my creativity. Even if I want to paint on the weekend, if I'm stressed about something, I can't paint. It's just too hard. So stress, and the other thing that stops me from writing is my creativity brain typically turns off around 9 o'clock at night. Now there are a few exceptions to that. And I typically don't like working past 9 o'clock at night anyway, because my brain needs a break. So I make sure that typically, if I'm writing, I don't write all day from 8 to 9. I usually have breaking up with meetings and different things. Hello, Lauren. And so I usually break it up with meetings and different things. But for writer's block, I don't really get that, but I do have to stop writing around 9 o'clock because that's typically the time when my brain is just not wanting to be creative all day because it's been working all day and it's tired. But I would love for you guys to put any of your questions you have about writer's block or anything else in the chat, because my Ask Me Anythings are not just for the topic at hand. It's for any question you might have about writing or publishing your book, and no question is too big and no question is too small. And we have a few more minutes left to chat about writer's block. And actually, what I would love to invite you to is I've got 2 upcoming events. The next one I have upcoming is for podcasters and any creatives who have trouble coming up with ideas, because we're going to have an ideation workshop. And that's going to be on August 19th. And it's going to be, I'm partnering with Jay from Audivita, and we're going to offer this workshop to any creatives who have trouble coming up with ideas for their podcast. So if that is something you're interested in, and you don't have to have a podcast, you can actually be a writer and come to this, because a lot of the methods I'm going to be teaching on this workshop are going to be applicable to podcasting or writing a book or, just starting any type of idea. So I'm going to be giving you free tools and methods that you can use to come up with new ideas. So you always have a list of ideas to use for your content, right? So no matter what field you're in, it doesn't matter what vertical. The workshop applies to all verticals. And it's just focused on how to come up with new ideas with using free tools. And there's going to be one paid one I'm going to mention, but mostly free tools and methods that I use to come up with ideas, because I never run out of ideas. I literally always have more ideas than I can publish or produce, just because of the time. So if that's something that you are really challenged with, is writer's block or coming up with ideas, that is very, very common. Like, don't beat yourself up over it, because that's just going to make it worse, because that's going to bring in stress. And then when you get stressed, you won't be able to come up with new ideas. So please don't do that to yourself. But definitely come and join me and Jay on August 19th. And I will post the time in the comments below. So make sure that, and the sign up sheet, and it's a free workshop. So there's nothing for you to lose and everything to gain on August 19th when you join Jay and I on our collaborative workshop it's an ideation workshop specifically geared towards podcasters, but used for any type of creating. So I hope this has been really helpful. I would love to see you at our upcoming ideation workshop. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to give you some really great ideas. You're going to leave inspired, but not only inspired, because inspired is only part of it, right? But you're not only going to leave inspired, you're going to leave inspired with the tools you can use to take your inspiration and to make it happen with content. And that's the most important piece, right? Because like being inspired is great. Having a passion is fabulous. We all need those things to be successful in whatever that we're doing. But we also need to know how to make it work. Because if we don't know how to make it work, we can't bring it to that next level or bring it to fruition and see our content on Substack or on YouTube or wherever it is that we want to put it. So, my friends, make sure you join Jay and I on August 19th. I will put the link underneath this video and when I post it. So please make sure you join us, because I'd love to see you and help you with any type of writer's block that you're having or any type of ideation block. These tools are fabulous. I've used them for years, and there was really great tried and true tools that you can use to ideate and help you with that process. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your week, my friends. Thank you, Lauren and Bridget, for joining me today, and everyone else who was on this call. I really love thank you for participating. And if you have a question and it's after this is posted, please put it in the chat for Publishing for Professionals, and I will answer it on the next Ask Me Anything, which is next Monday at 9:05 a.m. Pacific time, 12:05 p.m. Eastern. So if you're on the East Coast, join us at lunch next week again. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next week. Bye.